Hey lovelies, thanks for stopping by my channel today. I am very excited for today's video because of course, as you saw in the thumbnail, we are going to be doing a deep dive into the new launches from Devinah. I knew that this was going to be the one Black Friday sale that for sure I was going to shop. If you know me, you know that this is a brand that I truly love and I'm just always excited about their releases. Honestly, I feel like 98% of what I've gotten from this brand has been something that I've really loved. And honestly, what I haven't really loved is just more on a preference thing rather than a quality thing. So we have a lot to get into, so I don't want to leave this intro being too long, but if we haven't met before, my name is Kelly and I'm a professional hair and makeup artist, and here on my channel, I strive to keep beauty real. Real honest, real relatable, and real fun. So if that sounds like something you'd enjoy, don't forget to click subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on future videos. All right, like I said, we've got a lot to get into. We're gonna be playing with all of the things that I decided to pick up for myself. I will say I also did quite a bit of gift shopping through the brand. The sale was just so good, so good. Deals, deals, deals. That's all I have to say. I was pretty proud of myself for sort of limiting it because I could have gone a little overboard and just sort of been like, what don't I have? Let's just buy it all. But I didn't do that. So I picked up a few of the new releases for myself. I think I did also get 2 single shadows, but those are somewhere in the depths of my box with all of the other gifts that I got, so I'm not gonna get that out. We got the new here today. And while I always strive to be honest and very thorough in my reviews with all of you, I do just want to say I probably have a little bit of a bias towards this brand, and I do have a friendship with Deandra behind the scenes. Deandra is the creative mastermind and CEO of the brand, but that will never stop me from telling you what I think is worth the buy, who I think each product is good for, and if there's anything that I would pass on and things that I would choose to spend my money on. Okay. That was a lot. That was a lot to get into. So let's go ahead and get into the things that I decided to get. Now, I think that these were the items that Deandra said that she was coming out with first. These were the ones that she first sneak peeked, and I am so incredibly excited to get into these, the bases. So I do just want to give a moment to show you the packaging on these because I just think it's so pretty. Like, I mean, I just love a good sparkly holographic moment. Obviously Deandra does too. So here you can see, now the two come in similar packages. They are not exactly the same. They have different photos on the front. And of course, you know, you have the names, but they are somewhat similar here. However, I love the fact that might not have even been in focus. It's okay. This is the important part. I love the fact that these are in 2 very distinctive tubes. It is very important. It's very important to see things very easily and know which one I'm grabbing for. So we have the Prelusion Eye Base Primer and we have the Specular Sparkle and Shimmer Glue Base. So this Eye Base Primer is really what you will lay down to sort of blank out your canvas, help your matte shadows grip and stick, and really give you long-lasting color, and I'm assuming most likely a more vibrant payoff. Now, the specular glue is really for your shimmers, for your sparkles, for your little glitteries that you don't want to be anywhere but on your eyelid. So this will probably intensify that sparkle and, again, like I said, help reduce the fallout. That being said, 99% of the time if I'm using something that's sparkly, I usually don't do my base makeup first, unlike today, because I'm just feeling dangerous. So what I thought we would do is, I'm planning on doing 2 looks. So what I thought I would do is use the eye base on one side and concealer on the other, because concealer is what I use a lot of the time. And then when we get to the shimmer part, I'm going to wet my shadow as I usually do on one side, the side with the eye base, and on the side that has no eye base, I'm gonna go through with the glitter glue. So that way we can really see the results of each of these products, and I'm not doubling up on both. We can just really focus on one per look. All right, now the item that I think everyone was incredibly excited for, and I have a feeling a lot of people probably snagged this one, is the brand new Phantasia palette. Now this is actually the first true eyeshadow palette from the brand as far as like a collective whole eyeshadow palette. And I was talking to some people in my DMs and things, people were asking questions. They're like, don't they already have palettes out? And yes, with the Mystic Cove and the Sea of Shadows, when the brand did the expansion packs, they had the artwork palettes that you could get with the expansion packs. But both of those collections are available as singles as well. Now with this palette, right now, and I'm not sure if Deandra's planning on having these as singles, but this really is an all bundled palette that just happens to have removable singles. So you aren't able to get these as singles, but you do have the benefit of being able to, you know, sort of swap these around, especially if visually, like just changing up the order of a color story makes you see different combinations. That can be super helpful, but also you could pop out shades, put in different shades, so you can really kind of customize this. So now that I've been waving this around, here is the palette, and this is not perfect anymore because I have already filmed some swatches for you. I did do earlier today, I did do eye swatches of every single shimmer, so we will be getting into that in a little bit. I'll give you hand swatches of the mattes. I think the shimmers are really where it's super helpful to actually see it on the eye. So I went ahead and did that. My eyes are a little sensitive right now, I'm not gonna lie, but it was worth it for you. Now I have to say, this color story is exactly what I would expect from Devinah. This is ethereal grunge, right? And we all know that Deandra loves her bit of grunge. And I think that this, if usual, like murky, jewel tone, grungy, earthy, icky shades aren't your vibe, you're more of like fairyland, unicorns, this is it, but just a little grungified, you know? So I think that this is a beautiful collection and I cannot wait to try it out. And while I have done the eye swatches, I have not actually done any looks yet. So we are gonna do, again, 2 looks. Okay, oh, I'm just realizing I never mentioned prices. All right, so the prices for the Prelusion Eye Base and the Specular Sparkle and Shimmer Glue Base are typically $10. They were discounted to $6.50. You could also get the duo for $13. I just went ahead and got the bundle. And then the beautiful new Phantasia palette was regular price $76. It was a steal of a deal for $45.60. And that was for Black Friday. Now, I'm honestly not quite sure how long the sale is going through. Today is Cyber Monday as I am filming this. I'm hoping that she's running it for at least one more day, just in case people are able to see this video and if there's anything that you want to pick up and you weren't able to snag. We will see. I will talk to Deandra and I'll kind of put a thing right here for you. Now, the other thing that I was surprised to see in my box, because I didn't actually order it, I kind of went back and forth, but the brand was kind enough to gift me the new Lid Luxe Mastery Brush Set. This is a 10-piece brush set, and I really sort of like went back and forth because it was on an excellent discount for the sale. This brush set is $59.90 at full price and it is marked down to $38.94. So for 10 brushes, if they're great quality, that's a good price. I love brushes. I love brushes so much. These are super cute. The look of these is super cute. Like when Deandra was doing her live and I was looking at this, like, these are so cute. And then I have just gotten so many brushes. Some I have purchased, some I've been sent by brands, and I just was like, Kelly, you gotta stop somewhere. You have to stop. Don't buy the brushes, buy the other things. So thank you so much to Devinah for sending these over. So again, while these were gifted to me, you know I'm gonna be honest with you. And especially since you know I am very picky when it comes to makeup brushes. So we're gonna be doing a little tryout of these. I'm not gonna do a deep dive into these brushes today. This video would be like 10 hours long. I will be using as many as I can out of the 10. I mean, that would be 5 per eye. We're probably not going to use all of them, but we'll see. I'll try, and I'll just give you, you know, my first impressions. Okay. I think that's it. I think that is it. Like I said, I picked up a couple other shades. I mean, the mattes were down half price, $3. The regular shimmers, I think, were $3 as well. It was just like deals on deals. I could not believe it. Now, I will say, if you are catching this video after the sale has ended, you can use my non-affiliate code KeepBeautyReal to save on a lot of items. Some items are not code eligible, but a lot of them are. So that will always save you on your purchase. Again, it is not affiliated, but if you would like to use it to save some cash, I would love to help you out. All right, we have a lot on the to-do list. And by we, I mean me. Or you, if you're planning on watching this entire thing. By the way, I will try to have chapters down below of everything. I probably should have said that in the intro of this. So what I plan on doing now is I'm going to show you the eye swatches of the shimmers, and then we'll come back, I'll show you swatches of the mattes, we'll do the 2 looks, and then I think at the end I'm also going to do, I pulled out some comparisons of shades that are either close or shades that I kind of thought were close, or shades that I just sort of had in my mind when I was doing the eye swatches, like, oh, maybe this one would be close to my collection. Some are Devinah, some are not. I will throw that in at the end in case you're curious about that as well. All right, enjoy the eye swatches. I'll see you in a minute. All right, here we go with the eye swatches. So just so that you know kind of the setup I have going, I do have 2 side lights on right now, but my front light is mostly just using natural light. I kind of wanted to give this the best chance to see what it's really gonna look like in person in your everyday life. As we go through, I'm actually probably not gonna talk much through these. I'm just about to hop on to a Lisa Eldridge masterclass. So I will probably just be doing these swatches with music overlaid, and I'll give you my thoughts at the end. Or who knows, I might actually just overlay what I thought about these after I'm done. But sorry, I do wanna catch this class, but I also wanna do my swatches for you. Oh, and it probably bears mentioning that I am not using a traditional eye base or a glitter glue. I am just going through with a bit of concealer on my lids. Mostly that's just to show you, first of all, a lot of times that's all I do is prime my lids with concealer, but this way you'll see the true effect of the shadow if you just do minimal effort, you know what I mean? If you were to use a base or a glitter glue, these are obviously gonna be even more pigmented, even more sparkly. And of course, we'll be using the new Devinah bases in the look. So all I'm doing is wetting my brush because I always do that with shimmer shades, almost always, so enjoy the swatches. Right, so this first shade is Storm Rider. The brand says that it is a shimmering purple adorned with ethereal lighting like sparks of orange gold. I think that this really has a beautiful texture, and I actually see a little bit of like almost a blue or almost even a teal. That could just be that it has so much light that it was kind of like picking up other color, but I think that this one is absolutely lovely. Here we have Frostbane. This is a beautiful icy pinky lavender shade. It does have a bit of a base, but that beautiful like UV light or like bright blue shimmer to it. So the brand says that this is an iridescent pink glow, gracefully transitioning to a mesmerizing shade of blue. I would say that this is Nokomis's cousin. Here we have Starborn, and I know that the green to pink shift is very popular. This to me is like a tealy type green, not like a true green or a lime green. And then you do have that little bit of gold flash as well. So this is pretty. I did find that I had to work a little bit more to just smooth this out over my 42-year-old eyelid. And next we have Fire Gaze. You all know that I love a good pinky peachy orange shade, and that's exactly what the brand describes this as blending vibrant hues of pink and orange. Now, I do think that Fire Gaze, and you can sort of see it here, it did again have that same texture as Starborn. I was able to smooth this one out, and you will see in the look that I do that you can get this very smooth. All right, the one that everyone was excited about. This is such a beautiful shade. She compared this to Mystic Moon Pie, you know, it being its sort of like distant cousin, and I do see that here. It does have some of that blue flash that Mystic Moon Pie has. So this is a neutralized peachy coral base, and then you see that beautiful shift. It's just lovely. It's very soft, but just lovely. All right, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed those eye swatches. My eyes took a little bit of a beating. They took a little bit of a beating, not too bad, but I won't be surprised if it's a little bit trickier than usual for me to blend out my shadows today, just because I feel like, you know, each eye got wiped like 3 times. So eventually I just feel like the lid skin gets a smidge dry, and sometimes that can affect performance. We will see. Maybe the eye base is gonna help me a lot. All right, so I do just wanna say, I probably already noted it before, but if you're kind of hopping around, Deandra let me know that the sale is going through the 30th. It is going to end at 11:59 Pacific Standard Time. So you have some time. You don't have a lot of time. I'm thinking that I should get this video up by tomorrow, which is the 28th. So you should have a couple more days to be able to shop the sale if any of this, you know, blows your skirt up. Okay, so let's look at this palette again. This artwork is just so pretty. I mean, this magical unicorn. Like, and it's so fitting because this exactly exudes the feel that I get from the inside. Like, exactly. So I am very excited. Now, I know that when Deandra did her lives, by the way, if you're not following her, I will go ahead and have her info, the brand info and everything linked down below for you, of course. But Deandra does these Devinah After Dark lives, and in one of them she did swatches of this palette, and I was like, oh, I cannot wait. And I really enjoyed getting to see live swatches before the sale, because then I was just sort of able to like let the idea of the palette marinate in my head, decide if I wanted to pick it up. I mean, I knew, especially after seeing a couple of these swatches, I was gonna get it, but you know, if you were sort of on the fence, maybe it helped you. So I will make sure to have her channel linked down below. Okay, so you know me, when I get a collection of shadows or a palette, I usually like to do something that's more light and ethereal and something that's a little bit like deeper, more mysterious, a little smokier. So I think that's going to be what we do today. So that being said, the first thing we need to do is swatch the mattes. You got to see the shimmers, but you all know that I absolutely love Devinah's matte formula. I think that it blends really beautifully. They're really buildable. So I always feel like one shade can really almost be kind of like two, depending on how you pop it on. So I'm going to go ahead and pop these shadows out because I don't know the names yet of them. One thing that I will say is, let me just go ahead and show you here. I really like the fact that these removable magnetic pans have the little like tab here. So you can take a tweezer or this like pan tool. I'm sure it's like a little spatula, you know? I think I actually, did this one come with my Danessa Myricks palette? I think it did. So this way you're able to like pop in and scoop these up. You can also use a magnet. It's just that sometimes I find that like the attraction of the magnet sort of pops it up and then like you get a little bit of like shadow kickoff. So of course now after doing my eye swatches, I can't find my magnetic wand. So you're just gonna get fingers. So Cassius is, I would say like one click to the pinky lavender side of Periwinkle. So that is really pretty. And by the way, I tried not to get my light super, super bright, so trying to keep the color pretty true here. Now, this next shade is a beautiful, grungy, purple shade. This is Magnus, and Magnus is just that. It's like this dusty, grungy, purple gray. Oh, it is so pretty. And she had said that she just felt like the unicorn on the front of this palette looked like a Magnus. And I think that that is a perfect name for a majestic unicorn. I mean, look at that shade. It is a dusty purple, but like it almost has, there's something to this. It almost has a bit of like a taupey vibe to it too. It's like a little bit more neutralized, that little bit of grunge to it. So it's not just gray in it. It's a little bit of like a rosy brown. How do I say that? A rosy brown purple. Purple? We're not even gonna try it. So this next shade is Lucius, and right away I was like, oh yeah, this is a total Deandra shade. I just always, when I think of Deandra, I think of her in the like, you know, sort of like plummy, mauvey, purpley, like Virago, like those types of shades. And this is definitely more on the purple side of that. This is just a beautiful smoked out kind of like rosy lavender shade. Very pretty, not very pretty swatches. No one ever comes to my channel looking for, you know, really chic, elegant swatches. Let's be honest. For me, it's all about the performance and giving you like an honest look at how these shadows are actually gonna look when you use them. So that's really always what's most important to me. Okay, so this shade, honestly, I think that this might be my favorite of the mattes. You're probably not surprised, but this is Estrella. And there is just something to this shade. I don't know how she does it. It's like this grungy, peachy tone with a bit of like a pink to it. It's like a cooler toned peach. I mean, it looks warm next to the rest of these, right? But if I were to pull out a very peachy peach, this would look a little bit softened. And this shade is just so pretty. There is something so unique about the peaches, the sort of more like slightly orangey tones that this brand does. I remember the first new matte that I saw the brand launch, I mean, at least that I was like paying attention to, was this one. This is Zarina. I'll actually give you a little comparison here. Why not? So I need more fingers. So Zarina to me is, again, it's like a grungified peach, but it's a little bit lighter. This is not part of the palette, but I just have to show that I feel like if you want a peach that's maybe just like a little bit more wearable, let's say you have an olive skin tone, I think that this would just work better than like a standard peach. I don't know, I just really like it. So when I saw this one, I was like, ooh, that's like a deeper grunged version of that shade, and I am here for it. So that was definitely one of the reasons I wanted to pick this one up. Okay, we have our mattes. Now let's go ahead and do our looks. I'm gonna get cleaned up. I'll be right back. All right, I am incredibly excited. I have sort of built my whole day around getting to play with what was in my box. I paid to have this shipment rush shipped to me, partially as a content creator, but also just more because I was excited to touch all the things that I had gotten. But I'm just so excited to use all these because all the newness has just got me kind of giddy. Okay, so the Prelusion Eye Base Primer. So I'm just gonna pop a little bit of this out onto the back of my hand. Sorry, I have some staining from some lipsticks. I finally am now able to get into my bottom Alex drawer. And when I got in there, it was just kind of chaos and it put me on organization mode. And so I was doing some swatching to decide what I wanted to keep. Regardless. Anyway, so here is what the eye base looks like. I have a feeling a little is going to go a very long way with this. And you know, you can always add more. I'm just taking this like Fenty eyeshadow brush. It's a synthetic, which is always what I'd prefer to use in this case. So I did not put any concealer on my eyes yet. I did when I was putting on my foundation. I wouldn't say that I applied foundation to my eyelids, but I sort of like blended out, so I do probably have a little bit of foundation on my lids. That being said, if you are really concerned about the wear of your eyeshadows and you're looking for something that's gonna give you the longest wear, I would actually start with an eye base on an incredibly clean eyelid, because if you start with a foundation or a concealer, that isn't gonna have quite as much grip onto the skin, you know? And I do think that this gives just a little bit of tint to the lid. I'm gonna go ahead and take this and blend this into the back of my hand so that we can see. Maybe you can see. It does have a tiny bit of pigment to it, but not so much that I feel like it's gonna look crazy ashy on deeper skin tones. You know, it's just gonna have that lighter wash. So it doesn't feel super tacky, but it also isn't like drying down dry. Now, I am going to choose to just do a very light wash of translucent setting powder on. So I'm just taking whatever I have left in the cap of my Hourglass Veil and just setting this down. Now, the reason that I like to do this is because with a gripping primer, sometimes, and I obviously haven't used this one, at some point I'll try it without setting it, but sometimes a gripping primer can actually make it a little bit harder to blend out shadows. The one that I definitely noticed that with is the Urban Decay All Nighter. I usually use the Eden shade because that has some tint to it. Because it is so grippy, it does make a little like when you are putting shadows on. So to avoid that a bit, I like to dust with the translucent setting powder. Now, that being said, you do lose a little bit of the gripability of that primer. It still helps, I think, everything last longer, but if you're looking for like maximum pigment stickability, you want to not set it. That's my thoughts on that. Okay, we're already deep diving here. So I'm gonna start with Lucius. All right, so we're gonna take the D109. So I'm starting by building this through the crease. And I don't really care so much if it does get down onto my lid a little bit, because that'll just be, you know, a little base for the other shadows. So this is going on really nicely. I'm not getting any skipping from that primer, but obviously I did set it with translucent powder, which always helps. So now that I have that shape sort of like laid down, I am just gonna take that same brush and very softly blend out the edge. So I'm not really using much pressure here. This brush is fairly dense. It's, you know, not super stiff, but it's not like a really fluffy blender. All right, I'm actually gonna switch to the D108. This brush shape, I'm just gonna talk about this one brush because I was like, I don't have anything like this. It's like a flat paddle, but it's not rounded off at the tip. And at first I was kind of like, oh, when am I ever gonna use this? But I actually think if you have hooded eyes or deep set eyes and you're looking to kind of get in there without really spreading the product this way, you just want to kind of like place it this way, I think this is going to be nice because it's really slim. So you could very easily just look straight forward and kind of like give a little wiggle, and that's going to really lay a slim amount of product as long as you're not like using a lot of pressure. I would say that this, it's still pretty stiff, but now I'm going to take the edge of this and I'm just going to go along this area. Okay, I'm just kind of like playing to see which of these brushes I like better for what. They're both a little bit stiffer than what I usually like to sort of blend out my very, very edge, but I mean, obviously we got pretty blendy. So again, I think that the 108 is really gonna be great to get in there into the tight spaces, or even like in a pinch to lay something down on your lid, like if you're wanting a matte all over your lid. And then this would be, the 109 would be sort of what I would like use to blend and blur at the very edge. But for me, I have to use almost no pressure to be able to get like the softness that I want. Like I like a pretty fluffy brush just for the very, very edge to use as almost like an eraser, just to sort of like blur that edge out. That's just personal preference. All right, so now let's go ahead and take the D103 brush. This is a nice little like fluffy sort of pencil, but also like detailer brush. I'm taking Magnus and I'm gonna use this as sort of like a really blown out under eye brush. And I'm sorry if my eyes are a little bit red, but all of the swatches and then, you know, obviously washing my face so I could kind of start over sort of took a toll on me today. And what time is it? It's 4 o'clock, so, you know, we've had a day with these eyeballs. We're getting grungified here. So I'm gonna take that same brush and use this on the outer V. And I am getting just a smidge of fallout. The Devinah mattes are very soft, so when I put product on a brush, I always just sort of like tap off into the pan. You do get a bit of kick up. It does not bother me at all. That happens with pigmented shadows, I find, and I don't mind a soft matte. So that's not a thing for me, but I am glad that I didn't put any concealer on because I can just kind of like clean this up if I'm not able to whisk all of this away. And again, I mean, if I was doing a look this dark, I would be doing my eye look first and then the rest of my complexion. So it's totally fine. Okay, I'm just not sure I can do it. I need to grab like a little bit wispier, and it's not the size of the brush, it's more the movability of the brush. I just need that to sort of like blur out this edge. I just like it very, very, very blurred. That just like softened it a little bit more. That's just a personal preference for me. What this little set might be lacking in a more like fluffy blender for me, it's sort of made up for in these. Look at all of the sizes of these. And I sort of consider all of these lid packers. I think that Devinah says that the 106 is more of a smudger brush, which it absolutely could be. This actually is a little bit like the shape of the one from BK Beauty in the new Nikki LaRose set. But these others are definitely, I mean, look at this. I think this is gonna be one that I really like. Sorry, I know I said I wasn't gonna go into these too much, but this is the 102 and this is the mini detail oval. I mean, that's gonna be great for packing on the inner corner, which I think is exactly what they say. Then this one, the 105, this is a bit big for what I usually like, but it could be great for a wash all over the lid or for a cream shadow. I think the one that I'm gonna use is the 110. And the 110 is described as the small shader detailer. So here is this one here. Now, I do just want to say, maybe you can see it there. This brush does have an extra little hair here. Not all the ladies are in formation. So I did go ahead and I let the brand know. I have a couple flaws on my brush. This was one of them. And then where did it go? On the 106, the stamping sort of got smudged. I mean, these are like tiny little details, but it is something that I just like to note. So I just want to let you know that if you have one of these errant hairs like this and you want to sort of like fix your brush, what you want to do is totally separate that hair out and just either pull it out or cut it off, which I just took a moment to do. But I don't recommend trying to get it to be in shape with the rest of the brush because that'll be a very pointy end and it might get a little scratchy on your eye. So you just want to like take it down to the base. Okay, so now let's get some shimmers going. We're gonna start out with Fire Gaze and I'm gonna pop that on the inner portion of my lid. Now this one, I feel like has a bit more texture to it. I definitely felt like that when I was doing the eye swatches anyway. So I'm trying to, I did wet my brush obviously, and I'm trying to just kind of like pack this one on and not do too much swiping until it's almost all off of my brush. This might be one of those shades that is going to be best smoothed out with a finger, but you know that I'm not usually team finger, or honestly, even just using a glitter base might just help you kind of like get that creamier feel. So now I'm taking Storm Rider on the same brush. I just wiped it off on a microfiber cloth, and I'm gonna use that on the outer part of my lid. I thought that these two would go well together because Storm Rider sort of has a bit of flip that I thought would blend well into Fire Gaze. I hope I'm saying these shade names right. Oh, this shade is really pretty. I am finding that this one is less textured. Oh, I got a little down here. It's fine. It's fine if we color outside the lines. We can clean it up. This has a little bit less of that like flaky sparkle, and it's more smooth, at least in my opinion. This is super pretty. This is so pretty because it's a purple, but I do see a bit of the orange flip that the brand mentions in their Instagram photos, but honestly, I almost see like a really light greeny teal or something. It definitely has a beautiful like glow to it. Ooh, okay. I mean, I am getting more into purples these days. All right, I'm gonna clean this mess up and put some mascara on, and then we'll do an inner corner. All right, back with the mascara look. I do have to say I also went through and did some black waterline liner. First I was like, oh, it's kind of a waste because I'm probably just gonna wash this off because Jeremy and I are going to a movie and I'm gonna have 2 eye looks on. But then I was like, well, wait, how am I supposed to give you guys an update on how things wear if I don't leave it on for a few hours? So I'm going to the movies with 2 eyeshadow looks on. It's fine, it's fine. So I went through with the Urban Decay. This is the waterline liner. So what I did, I just kind of like drew it on, but then when I got to my inner corner, and I'm sorry you didn't get to see this, but it took me like 3 seconds. I took the D101, which is this itty bitty little pencil brush. So I could see using this obviously for what I did, like using it as a detailed pencil brush, but also to like lay things on the inner corner. This would also make a really good pinpoint concealer brush. So that's what I went through with. It was not scratchy at all. I mean, especially because I was working in my very, very inner corner. And, you know, like I said, my eyes have been through a little bit today. So I'm very happy with this. I'm also going to be really happy once we get this inner corner shade on. This, I think, is sort of like Nokomis's sister shade. This is Frostbane, and I'll be doing swatch comparisons for you. So I think that Frostbane is a little bit more pinky, and it has more of a base to it, like a pinky lavender base, than Nokomis, which is just that more like translucent sort of sheer shade. I'm going to take the teeny tiny D102 brush for this, and I'm just going to pop a little bit of this on the inner corner. So usually for inner corner, I like to use a dry brush just so that it doesn't get too molten and it doesn't disturb my much needed inner corner concealer either. I like that this is going to kind of be like violet into pink into like an ambery orange into purple again. So we kind of got a halo eye that isn't actually really a halo eye. Oh yeah, this has a bit of like a ultraviolet flip to it like Nokomis does. You know, it's like, it's purple, it's a little bit, you know, blue violet. It's got a little bit of everything going on. Okay, that's pretty stunning. Now I do have to say the sort of like mildly flaky texture of that Fire Gaze shade for me on my lids, now it looks okay, but I did think that I kind of had to like smooth it out a little more. But I love the very beautiful end result. All right, let's get a little ethereal on the other side. All right, if you know, you know. You had to know that I was going to be using Ember Rain on this side. So when Deandra in her live was saying that this was sort of kind of like a distant cousin to Mystic Moon Pie, I was like, sold. Give it to me. And especially when she was like, it sort of has like a peachy shift, like a peachier base. I was like, yes, yes, please. So that's really going to be the star of the show. I cannot wait to use the shade. And again, I'll be doing some comparison swatches at the end of this video in case you were kind of curious. Just, it really is sort of like related to, but not similar to, if that makes any sense. So before we begin, I just went and laid down the tiniest amount of the Haus Labs Triclone concealer, and again, a little bit of that Hourglass powder just right on top, especially with this because it's going to be a pretty light look. I do want to have some coverage, so I want to make sure to really be able to, you know, get a little bit of my discoloration gone because I want to see the beauty of the shadow, not the beauty of sleepless nights. I'm just saying. All right, my camera turned off while I was busy yammering on, but I did take some brush cleaner on the D108. I wanted to try out this really flat shape This is a light shade, so you're probably not gonna see it, but I really think that this flat shape, you really can kind of like get in here. If you have deep set eyes, or like I said, a hooded shape, you can really like pinpoint, get in there, work the shadow in without widening the shape of what you're going for. So if you're using a darker shade and you're wanting to really pack that in, but not make it wider, this is great. So if you're wanting to just get right into the crease, or even if, you know, for those of us with hooded eyes, we usually want to start that transition, whether it's shimmer into matte or, you know, a deeper shade into a transition shade. Usually it's like right above the fold of the eye. So this really would give you some precision. Now, you can absolutely do this with a teeny tiny, you know, round or oval shaped brush as well. But I just think that this skinny flat shape, just again, it keeps it really skinny while still being able to like dive in there. I also think actually that the D107 would be pretty good at this as well. This isn't a brush shape that I use a lot, like with matte shadows or like into my crease, but this would probably be a multitasker as well. Now, that being said, I'm actually gonna take this fluffy blender and then just kind of like blur and blend this and sort of like stretch it out. Now I am going to lay this color down on the lid as well, but I mean, look how precise that was. I'm really liking this shape. Now I do think I'm actually gonna like wash this onto the lid too, just so I have more of that peachy base for that shimmer to go on top of, because then I think we'll see the shift a little bit more. So what I do wanna do though is really soften this out a little bit more. So I am gonna take this Larifay E14, and just kind of blend this out. I just like a little bit more of a soft, fluffy brush. It could be smaller than this, but it needs to have a little bit of wiggle room, especially, you know, for me with now being 42, the denser a brush is, even if I am very gentle, it just tends to move my eyelid skin around. And if it's moving, you have a tendency to get just a few more of those skips, you know, because like if I push it and a wrinkle forms together, then, you know, it's sort of like ironing over a crease in a shirt, and I don't want to do that. So I'm just going to use this to kind of soften out this edge. But that shadow really built up beautifully. Okay, that's just a little bit softer. Now let's do some shimmer. All right, specular. Did you think I forgot? I didn't. We're gonna go ahead and go through with the Sparkle and Shimmer Glue Base. Again, I'll pop a little bit of this out. This has almost like a really light creamsicle tone to it. I'm sure once we get it on the lid, it's not gonna look like much of anything. I'm gonna use the other side of that Fenty brush. Definitely for something like this, you wanna use a synthetic brush. I would never use a glitter glue with a real hair brush. So I'm just gonna pat this on, partially to kind of like load it on well, but also because I don't wanna disturb that shadow that I decided to put on underneath too much. And I really wanna make sure to work this up into my crease area, because that is gonna be where I'm gonna have a tendency for a shimmer to crease, is in the crease, obviously. It seems obvious, but you know, when you have either a small eyelid or, you know, hooded eyes, sometimes it's like, hey, just remember, you got to get enough of that real estate. Okay, so now since I'm planning on just doing a nice wash, we're going to take that D105. I probably didn't have to say D, they're all D. So now again, I'm just going to pack this shade on. This is so pretty. I tell you what, if we had not done our BYOP for spicy neutrals yet, this would be one that I would have in there. This is like a shifty shade for the person that wants a soft shift, but it is so magical. And I don't know if they're considering this a multi-chrome or duochrome. Let me see what they say about this one. Okay, they must consider this a multi-chrome because they say hues of coral, blue, and pink, and I definitely see that. So this is just the softest. This is honestly maybe not the shade that I should have picked to use the specular with, because it is a softer shimmer. However, if you look at it the opposite way, this is a great one to do because it is a softer shimmer. So, you know, you're able to enhance that a little bit. This is just absolutely beautiful. And I have to say, so when I did my eye swatch, as you saw, I did that with a wet brush. And with a wet brush, this became more liquid metal, whereas if you use a glitter glue, you're gonna see more of that sparkle and speckle. I don't know if you're able to see that, but I see more of the shimmer particles this way, rather than by liquefying something. Obviously, you're gonna get a bit more of a molten effect. I like both. but this gives it like a fun, like I said, fun, like little spicy neutral, sort of like double take moment. Like this is safe for work, if you will. Okay, says the girl who's about to go to a movie wearing 2 different eye looks. So I do have a little bit of fallout, which, you know, I always kind of expect, especially during these play dates where it's like, let's just have fun and put on all the eyeshadow. So now let's test out this D106 brush, which I think that, yeah, they're calling this the mini smudger brush. So I'm gonna put this, and I'm just using the same matte. Honestly, we're just gonna keep it kind of simple. I'm gonna smudge this on the lower lash line. Yeah, this works really nicely. Yeah, this is working really nicely. I do like a oval smudger like this, especially with darker shades, because you have to do less back and forth, so there's less likely to have kick up, especially with a softer textured matte like the Devinah mattes. Okay, so again, I'm gonna go ahead, clean this up, put some mascara on, and then we'll do an inner corner. Back with mascara. That was just super quick. I just threw a little concealer on. I didn't really have a lot of fallout, but just enough that I kind of wanted to freshen it up. So now I'm gonna use the matte shade Cassius in the inner corner. I think this is actually what Deandra did. She did a purple inner corner, a matte purple inner corner in one of her lives. I don't know if it was one using this palette or if it was maybe the other bundle. But anyway, that's what we're gonna do. I think it's gonna be kind of fun and really enhance this flip, because you see a little bit more of that like bluey purple here, and then it moves out into the warmer tones. So this is really just going to enhance that. And why the hell not? I could use the same inner corner as we did on the other side, but we're just gonna go for this. You know what I think I'm gonna do? I'm gonna throw a little bit of that Ember Rain over the top of this, because I think I want a little bit of shimmer, but I'm going to show you what this looks like. Okay, so now that I'm seeing this, it is obviously deeper on my inner corner, which for my eye shape and the fact that I already have deeper inner corners, I don't really want that. So I think what I'm going to do, I had 2 options here. I could have used the one shade in this palette that I haven't touched yet, well, other than the Swatches Starborn. Or I think what I'm actually gonna do is I'm just going to pop down a little bit of that Ember Rain over the top of my inner corner, over the purple, so that we can kind of see like how that affects it. So again, D102. And we're just gonna go in dry and then just really tap this on to build it up. Okay, yeah, I like that. See how that just like kind of re-brightened everything up a little bit, I feel like. Very fun. Now, I don't know after doing it if I would use Cassius as a base on my inner corner again, but it was fun to play with. I do think that Ember Rain is going to be a very pretty, very soft, but special inner corner for those days that I just want that little something something. So we used every shade but one, which I think is pretty good. So that being said, I definitely have some thoughts. I'm gonna zoom you out. I'll give you my thoughts on everything I've used today. I'll kind of give you a rundown on how I'm feeling about the brushes. And then at the end, of course, we've got those comparison swatches coming. All right, I feel like it just keeps getting darker and darker in here because it's been a hot minute, but let's run through my thoughts on everything that I picked up from the Black Friday sale. So starting with the eye bases. First of all, I just have to say, I love this packaging. This one especially, it just makes me think of a magic wand for some reason. I don't know. It doesn't look like a magic wand, but it gives me magic wand vibes. I did also want to say that little dot that I had on the back of my hand, it did stay tacky for a bit, but it did dry down completely. So I actually like that, because to me that means if there's a spot that I put the glitter glue down, but I didn't actually put shadow over, I'm not going to constantly like have sticky lid. You know what I mean? So I really like that. I will give you an update in the comments how I felt that this wore. Now, that being said, I wear Devinah shadows a lot. I've never really had any issues with wear time. I have a shade or two that might tend to crease on me more if I don't use a glitter glue, but really pretty much I just find that these shadows last all day beautifully no matter what I do. I do think that the base really did help to make a beautiful matte application. So it'll really be the longevity of the shade that, you know, I'll have to see on. But again, I feel like Devinah shadows last a pretty long time, but no qualms whatsoever. I appreciate that I didn't have any like over grippiness in this base. So I definitely think, especially right now for the price that you can get these on sale, if you are in need of an eye base or in need of a glitter glue, I would definitely try these out because I'm really happy so far. So Phantasia. I really like both eye looks that I came up with. I mean, I feel like this is definitely more of your classic multi-chrome glam shadow, whereas this is really that like slightly grungy, dirty, earthy, sort of like sexy bruise. I doubt that's going to be a thing. We're not making sexy bruise a trend, but you know, it's sort of that like blue into almost that like yellowy thing of a faded bruise, and I really like it. I really like it. I do also think that this Ember Rain shade would be pretty over the top of the more lavender shades in here as well, and you'd probably see more of the peach come through. So I'm really here for this look. And again, the only shade that I didn't use was this middle one. I have a feeling that that isn't a shade that I'm going to be using a lot of. I think I will enjoy it. It's just not one that I'm going to grab for all the time. Now, I do want to say I was asking Deandra about these shadows in here, and as of right now, they are planning on keeping these shades as part of this palette. So the only way you can get these shades is in this palette. They won't be available as singles as of right now. Now, I think that that makes sense. I mean, it's not like you can go out and buy Natasha Denona Xenon in like the 2 singles that you wanted from that palette, right? So I think it makes total sense. And I think especially right now for the price that you can get it, it's a great way to pick up these shadows. I didn't think there was a bad one in the bunch. Now I do just want to make a note, and I think that I maybe said this in the swatches, but Fire Gaze and Starborn have a very slightly flaky feel and look to them, in my opinion. I do think I was able to smooth that out on this side. Now, that being said, I don't really like a flaky look in a shadow. Not usually even a little bit, because I don't like any sort of texture on my lids. So I'm a little bit picky when it comes to that. That being said, I think it turned out beautifully. You just got to work them a little bit more into the skin. And if you are team fingers, I doubt you'll have a problem with that at all. I am not team fingers. Now, all of the other shimmers in here, I was able to apply very smoothly without any issues whatsoever. The mattes all performed absolutely beautifully. So at the sale price of $45.60, this is a very great deal. I really think so. I mean, even if you take that you have the 5 shimmers in here, if you price these at $10 a piece, which I think is averaged out, probably still under the value of these, you've already paid for the palette itself, let alone the matte shadows and also the beautiful palette with the lovely artwork. This doesn't have a mirror in it, so I do want to note that, but that also means that this is a little bit safer to travel with. So I definitely think at the sale price, it is 100% worth it. If you were, you know, really waiting to see some swatches of this, if you think that this is going to be a color story for you, it gets my A+ approval. The price at $76, I still think is a fair value, especially if it is code eligible. I think that it's still a really great deal. I know that I'm going to use most of these shades quite a bit. I do think I might like pop out 1 or 2 every once in a while, just mostly to get a little bit of depth difference, because I kind of wish, and granted, when you have 9 shades, it's really hard to do that, right? Like that's why a 9 pan for me just isn't quite enough. But I do wish that there was 1 slightly deeper shade. I think maybe I could get Magnus a little bit deeper, but I would like 1 slightly deeper shade. So I could see popping out, you know, honestly, I would maybe pop out this one here and then pop in a deeper shade so that I'd have an option. Or if I wanted more of like a super violet-y tone palette, I could pop this one out and then pop in that deeper shade. So that's the only thing for me, but you only have 9 shadows here, right? So it's sort of hard. So also, I just want to kind of like note that I always talk about how I really need inner corner shades, like give me a bright inner corner. I think as far as bright inner corner, this is going to be the only one that there is there. I think you could probably use this as an inner corner shade. However, it has more of that like blue-green background, and that's not something I usually like on my inner corner. So the only other one would be the very soft look of Ember Rain. So definitely doable. At least I have 1 really bright shade in here, so I'm happy with that. Out of 9 shades, I think that this palette was put together very well. I would have liked to have just seen 1 shade that was a little bit deeper, like Magnus Plus, sort of. I think that that would have been good. Okay, so the brushes. Let's talk a little bit about the brushes. I'm going to gather them all up here. Now, I just realized that I didn't do a close-up. So I think I used every single brush in here. And right now, this is only available as a set. So you can see we have a matte black handle, and of course you have that metallic pink ferrule. Now, like I mentioned, I chose not to purchase this set. I went back and forth quite a bit because I was like, okay, under $40 for 10 brushes. I mean, that's under $4 a brush, right? Like that's incredibly incredibly reasonably priced. Now that I have used these, would I buy them? Okay, I'm really, really picky on my brushes, and I have a lot of brushes, right? If I didn't have as many brushes as I do right now, I would say yes. But I do have as many brushes as I do, you know? So it's like, I did not need more brushes. The standout brushes for me in this set, I will say, are the little tiny D102, and then that one that I was like, what the heck am I gonna do with this guy? The D108. So if it were me, I would probably be going and getting these two as single brushes if that's ever an option. I also think that the teeny tiny pencil brush did a great job. So there wasn't a dud in this bunch. For me, the thing that is missing, and I know that I said this, so I'm not gonna like beat a dead horse here, but the thing that's missing is a fluffy blender that is a little bit less dense, that has a little bit more give to it, just to be able to use as an eraser around the edges. And that's just because I love everything to like be super blurred. So that's the only thing that's missing in this set for me. That being said, if you have smaller hooded eyes, I think that every other brush, if you like were starting out makeup today, every brush you could possibly need is in this set, other than that fluffy brush that I'm talking about. So I think for the price right now, they are definitely worth it. I mean, for $4 a brush, you're getting a pretty good deal. They aren't the best synthetic brushes I've used, but I've definitely tried other synthetic brushes that were a real disappointment. There was nothing disappointing about these. The miscut brush was a bit of like a, you know, so that could have been a one-off, but there are just a couple flaws in some of these. Boy, I don't know if you're even gonna be able to see this. So can you see how this one right here, there are a few longer bristles? So it's just some of these little tiny nuanced things that a lot of people probably wouldn't even notice. But for me, I do. So it is little things like that that make me glad that I didn't purchase these. That doesn't mean that they aren't a good deal, especially at the price that they are right now. I just know that I'm very picky about brushes. I also know that this is the brand's first foray into brushes. I am assuming that they can take some of this feedback back to the manufacturer and sort of tweak things a little bit. You know, there are one-offs. I think every brand has had, you know, one-offs before. I know, like, I got my Natasha Denona palette. I can't remember which one it was, but the outer, that little smudgy paint thing on the brush, that happened to my Natasha Denona palette, right? It's Natasha Denona. So those things just happen in manufacturing. So hopefully that helps you out. And thank you to the brand for sending these over to me. I am definitely going to use these more, and I will update you in the future. I have so many brushes that I am, you know, trying to like still use, get a feel for, so I'll definitely be doing update in the future. And I have to say, like, as much as I looked at this D108 and I was like, what the heck am I going to do with this guy? And the fact that I'm really loving it, that's been the theme of the brush reviews around here recently. It's been like I either got something by accident, or one brush I'm like, I don't really know if I'm gonna use this, and then I end up loving it. So I'm really enjoying this one. To me, it's a bit of a unique shape. All right, I think that that's it. Maybe I'm missing something, I'm not sure. But if there are questions that I didn't answer for you, or if there are other things that would be helpful, go ahead and drop a comment. Like I said, I'm hoping to get this video up before the sale is done. And you know that I love talking about makeup with all of you, so I would love to keep the conversation going down in the comments. So now it is time for swatch comparisons. So I'm gonna show you those swatches with just a little music. Like I said, some of these are ones that are sort of close. Some of them are ones that I just wanted to throw in because I think some people might think they're similar, or they sort of want to know a contrast between. So I hope that's helpful. Thank you so much, lovelies. I really appreciate you taking some time out of your day to spend it with me. Devinah Day is always an exciting one for me, and I hope it was for you too. And I will see you really soon.